virtue?
Civic virtue is the common good.
Or helping the fellow man without being compensated.
Matt, would firefighters be a good example of civic virtue?
Well, they could be since they fight fires and help the fellow man. But they're paid for what they do, so it's not a very good example.
Would smashing small animals be a good example of civic virtue?
That would actually be a very bad example, because it has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Is donating an organ a good example of civic virtue?
Well, maybe not this type of organ, but maybe your kidney or part of your liver would be a good example.
Would joining and serving in the military be a good example of civic virtue?
That would be a somewhat good example, because they are serving the country, but they also get paid.
Would murder be a good example of civic virtue?
Well, it depends on who you're murdering. If you're murdering someone that has been doing bad for the community, then it may be good, but usually it's a bad thing.
Is working in a soup kitchen a good example of civic virtue?
That is a good example, since you're not getting paid and you're helping families in need.
Is planting flowers a good example of civic virtue?
No, because it's only for yourself, not for the community.
Is eating pizza a good example of civic virtue?
What?